Welcome back to the Neuro-Spiritual Awakening podcast. I am your host, Dr. Val, and before I introduce the guest for today, I want to remind you, if you're really into this podcast, please like, share, subscribe, and comment because you don't know whose awakening you're going to contribute to. Without any further ado, welcome to the show, Will. We know each other, so unlike my previous guest, who I had no fucking clue about, we actually know each other, so that's really good. I mean, at least for me, and hopefully for our listeners, don't just anyway, I'll just shut up. I'll let you introduce yourself because that's what I do with my guests. Please say whatever you like to say about yourself, that you want to be and how you want to be listened to and known in the world.
Well, thank you for having me on this special show. I've been keeping my ear to the ground with every episode, so I'm grateful to have the opportunity now to extrapolate. So my name's Will Mellors-Blair. I'm a serial entrepreneur by trade, so to speak. I operate in the world of advanced intelligences. So people know it as artificial intelligence, but what we're building between both of my ventures, Mindora and TrueMind, are advanced intelligences effectively to enable the next evolution of human potential. So I focus really on how can we optimize human beings, right? There's such a issue currently in the world with mental health instabilities, things like stress, burnout, right? So for me personally, I've made it my mission to create advanced technologies that can work with us as humans to move us forward towards more health, well-being, and prosperity. So good to meet you, and looking forward to the chat.
Awesome. Well, thanks for introducing yourself in that way. And I also know we'll talk about your past in a little bit because I find that interesting personally. And I want to delve into that, as well as the awakening process and also how you became this multi-serial entrepreneur of um, forward intelligence, however the fuck you said it. Yeah, listen, that's your area of expertise. I'm a neuroscientist. I'll just stick to my area, right? With a spiritual twang, as we know, but which you have too. So I'm kind of interested to see how the two collide, because there's a lot of before going on a complete tangent, there's a lot of bad talk about artificial intelligence and how ChatGPT is telling kids to kill themselves and not tell their parents, all that kind of stuff. So I'm curious for myself to to talk about those things. And I know you're not like that because I know you. But yeah, I kind of want to explore that a little bit with you, given that that really is your area of expertise. And I'm just kind of I don't know, a newbie in that area. But yeah, how did you get into all that? I know you're a nerd, but how did you become what you are?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. And I think my whole life until perhaps the past few years, I was hiding away from my intelligence. So at age 6, well, before that, at age 5, I started reading a lot. And back then, it was just what I wanted to do. People like to watch children's programs, kids like to go to different clubs. My thing was just sitting down, cross-legged, just reading books. I was quite fortunate from the age of 5 that on the top of my road, there was a library, and I was there every single day. And from the age of 5 through to 16, I read, I think, 12 books a week. And back then, all I wanted to do was to learn. I wanted to have knowledge, gnosis, which then over time obviously translates into wisdom after it's applied. So for me personally, I've always been obsessed since a very, very young age with the intersection of human beings and intelligence. And I didn't realize back then, but this is how I perceived the world. I perceived the world as one harmonious consciousness that has capacity to help us move towards our true selves. It helps us move towards an interconnectedness between our species. And at age 6, I was named a child math prodigy. And I was grateful for that because growing up from the age of perhaps 3 through to 5, I didn't know what this world was. I had no idea what was going on. I was very confused. But then when I saw numbers, really complex numbers, I would be able to interface with them, speak with them. They would speak to me. that helped me make sense of existence. So when I kind of had that label, uh, I kind of took it seriously, if that makes sense. I kind of thought that was my identity. So growing up, I was just obsessed with learning, modeling, trying to make sense of the world in that sense. So that's where it started, Val. It started
Mhm.
with one, just wanting to learn and read for my own knowledge from age 5, reading 12 books a week. But then it kind of translated itself into the intersection of knowledge, intelligence, and also the potential of humans underpinned by advanced mathematics.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. Like, we hear about all these, I don't know, people, of course, like Einstein and stuff like that, right? That comes to mind, especially like, but, and, I went to an artsy school, but I was quite good in maths as well. And there was this guy there. Hopefully, he never listens to this episode because he was so nerdy. And like, we both won this thing, right, at school. Like, it was for maths, and I was just like, I really don't want to be assimilated with that level of nerd. I know, but it's just like it just to me sounds so out there. Like, and from what you describe, it does sound quite separate. Like, although you do perceive this reality as this one whole and we're all interconnected, and how you see, and ultimately I know mathematics is about that, but normal people don't see the world that way. So how could you go about in the world, like, knowing that and experiencing that, yet being so different? Like, at age 6 you were already labeled something vastly different from the rest of the population.
Yeah, it's a good point to make and good question. I felt misunderstood pretty much my whole life. It's only very recently that I've kind of rooted into my uniqueness and now I rock it. I mean, you know me, like I just am myself now completely. Whereas growing up, I would hide that self. I would hide it completely because I knew it wasn't normal, right? I'd have friends at school saying, how are you getting 100% on this math test?" I'm just like, "Oh, just I'm just lucky." Right? I'd kind of just like wipe it off kind of thing. Whereas now I don't do that. So I figure now that though I walk through life, and if you imagine for a second a hologram, like a holographic kind of interface in front of your eyes, right? That's
Oh, I
quite
don't
lit.
have to. I'm a neuroscientist. I know that that's the reality we live in. So, but yeah, go on.
You imagine that hologram, but I also, when I walk into to the world, I also have kind of like holograms with different graphs and different models. That's how I see the world. I
Hmm.
might see someone having an argument with their partner, and all of a sudden I see an equation like next to them, and I'm like, oh, okay. So for me, that's my interface layer. I experience
Wow.
reality as it is, but then as I experience something phenomenological, an argument, a siren, a child screaming, or something more pleasant, like someone giving someone a hug, right? So I then I'm able to filter emotions that I'm experiencing mathematically, which helps me and my brain deduce. So that's how I experience the world. But I've trained myself, keyword trained myself, to also interact at the human level. Because what I found growing up is I couldn't speak to people. Literally, I was a super duper introvert. Like
Hmm.
anyone wants to speak to me, I couldn't look people in the eyes. I'd look down. Teachers would say to me, William, look at me in the eyes and I'm speaking to you. And I'd do it and I'd cry my eyes out. Right.
Hmm.
So I've had to train myself to exist how I exist, right, with that holographic interface with equations in real time, but then be here present with people and have conversations and speak and listen. So that's how I've been able to kind of operate in existence, is being myself, but also kind of engaging with us as humans, because we're all unique. We all have different gifts, right? Um, and I think it's about just embodying those gifts and just being wholeheartedly acceptant of them, because we can't change who we are. We are who we are.
That is true. Wow. Well, from what you and thanks for being so generous with your sharing about your experience. And I find it really similar to when a person with a, let's say, mediumship gift. I just had this medium, an author and psychologist on the show before you last episode, and he was kind of talking about the same thing, except he was like, he felt quite ostracized because of his gifts and abilities as a medium. Like, he was seeing dead people everywhere. Ultimately, that's not what he said, but spirits, that's what he called them. But like, so it's like, he lived just like you live in this I mean, we all live in a multi-layered reality, except for most people, the 3D is what's most present. What I wanted to say is, like, it's not too far off from like a spiritual way of living life, even though it's very mathematical. And I guess that's where the interface between metaphysics and all this shit comes in, right?
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally. And the thing is, for me personally speaking, I think we all have the innate genius within us, but life has given us stuff. We have the media, we have stimulus, we have distortion, we have addictions, we have habits, negative habits, bad habits, and it adds on density to our innate genius. And I'm a firm believer in when we are able to move towards a bit of stillness, right? That means clearing distortion at a cellular level, at a mitochondrial level, at a deoxyribonucleic acid level, right? At a DNA level. When you are able to remove distortion from what we've been domesticated with, at that point, we start to tap into those innate gifts.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I think that we're all spiritual beings, but at the same time, we're all genius in our own rights when we're able to tap into what that genius is.
Yeah, and that's great because it goes hand in hand with my experience and this conversation about going towards a world of like personalized medicine or personalized, like where the individual really becomes like a key player in the game of life, so to speak, versus just, inhabiting this soup of, I don't know, of material. I know, very
That's
scientific, very scientific. Yeah.
no. I mean, look, we're speaking in concepts that are understandable, and look, the way I see it is we're born into this human suit, right, the flesh, and we kind of learn through observation, we learn through socialization, we embody through traumatic experiences, and these kind of components are what then creates what we determine our identity to be. And oftentimes that's distorted because we've learnt things that are not true, because we've socialized with crowds that aren't right for us, because we've been through some traumatic experiences that have quite literally messed us up. So
At the
when we
level
get
of our DNA, yeah, epigenetics. Tell me about.
literally this, right? So at that point, most human beings don't have the capacity to even understand that's happened. So their identity or personality, their personal reality, isn't a direct reflection of who they actually are. And that's an issue. Because if you've got, 99% of the population operating as humans who they're not actually are, that's an issue. Because then there's wholehearted interconnected distortion energetically, which is a big, big, big problem, which we're seeing in the world right now with wars and treachery and disagreements and disgruntlements that are causing issues geopolitically. It's because people are not moving towards their true selves and they're not currently operating as their true selves. Therefore, we perceive separation. We're not separate at all. This world, I have faith, can be amazing. I have faith. But first, we need to understand that all is well. First, let's go within. Let's go within first. Let's transform within. And let's understand that we are all one population. Because then we can, this world could be so prosperous.
Of course it could be. Of course she said it would be prosperous, of course, because with your numbers, you being a life path A, which is all about abundance, is prosperity, and you're kind of pulling it down. But as you're speaking, I can like visualize all the mathematical equations, which of course I have no fucking idea what they mean. But like in your, you're creating a world for me. It's really cool. Very, very cool. So let's troll back about a little bit. Um, tell me about your, I mean, you've kind of said what one flavor of your spiritual awakening it was and is, but tell me more. Like, tell us more. Where did you, I don't know, maybe it was a certain person that you met or a certain experience that you had, and we'll talk about your career as a soccer player in a bit. But yeah,
Yeah,
just elaborate, please.
absolutely. So I always knew there was something different about what I was experiencing. So when I kind of was growing up, I would have these intuitive nudges all the time. For instance, I had an intuitive nudge to stop doing karate. That was my first sport. My intuitive nudge was then to go to football. Then that happened and I had a success with football. Then I had an intuitive nudge to go to university in America. I then got offered a full scholarship to one of the most prestigious universities ever to exist. So I've always had these intuitive nudges to do certain things. Oftentimes it's gone against the grain and I've gone against popular opinion. And oftentimes because of the intuition and then kind of the logos, the thought of, well, what is this? What am I doing this for? There's been a discrepancy between kind of the decisions that I've made over time and also the thoughts that I've had. Now, what I associate that to is kind of the presence of beings, the presence of spirits, the presence of energies that have kind of guided my path before unconsciously. I first became really conscious of this in my junior year of Michigan at university, and we were planning to go out with my teammates, which happened every perhaps 2-3 weeks. We'd have one night out, and I was starting to get ready, and all of a sudden I had this voice, very dominant voice, like come into my consciousness, and it said, "Go to the supermarket, buy yourself some groceries, make yourself some food, light a candle, and make food and eat, and just rest tonight." And it was very, very palpable and visceral. So I thought, huh? What was this? So I messaged the group chat saying, "Hey guys, I'm not coming out tonight." And back then I was known as a party kind of guy, right? I would always work hard, of course, academically, professionally with my football, but ultimately I used to enjoy going out too, right? So when I had that kind of intuitive nudge to stay in, and I had the meal and it became really pleasant. Ever since that moment, that was in 2014, I would have been 22, I believe. In that moment, things started to happen. All of a sudden, I'd have urges to go and read about consciousness, spirituality. I then started to manifest all of these spiritual teachers from the Himalayas. I'd then be drawn towards Vedic philosophy. I'd then be guided towards ancient Egypt. So all of a sudden, in the space of perhaps 3 months from this kind of sit down and eat food versus going out, I had this new lease of life enter my soul, enter my consciousness. And since then, I've moved towards kind of healing those parts of myself that I'd onboarded unconsciously and started to live a more conscious existence. So yeah, it's quite interesting to be a university student amongst drinking culture, but then want to become more of a soulful being. That was quite an interesting part of my life.
Mm. And how
That's
did you
the
get,
origin
like,
story.
sorry, say again?
That was the origin story.
Yeah, and, like, what then would happen? Like, how do you navigate? I mean, I think from personal experience, I just kept drinking for a while, but then at some point, I stopped. What happened for you?
Well, I then kind of experienced a bit of separation. It was an identity crisis. So when I graduated university, I came back to the UK with a new lease of life. It manifested itself as hyper positivity.
Okay.
The United States does that to you, kinda, because of the way the country is. So naturally, you have more energy. You're like, hey, come on, let's do it now, kind of vibes, right? Well, I came back to the UK with that energy. And the UK, traditionally, it's reserved, it's conservative, It's proper. So my energy was a mismatch. So the
Wow.
old friendship groups, family members, old friends, what's happened to Will? Huh? So then there was a discrepancy between my old self and this self that I was embodying. So that was difficult because I'd have on one side, I'd be like, oh, I should go and hang out with friends and go and do old stuff and go out. And every now and again I did. I would go out. But then I'd feel myself slowly imploding inside. The voice would come back. This is not you. This is not you. And then I'd feel sad because that's what I'd always done. That's what I used to do. So now there's a drastic change happening, a seismic shift happening in my world. And then when I'd be in my own quiet time, I'd be into meditation, I'd be into breath work, I'd go deep into my spiritual studies. But then again, I'd be like, oh, but I should be going out, I should be social. So it was a dichotomy. It wasn't a pleasant experience after I graduated. So there was a letting go phase that happened. That was a years long prolonged process.
Mm. I feel you. I mean, I kind of am experiencing this now with a lot of, friends who I've considered like really, really close friends for like 10 years sometimes. And it's just like there's this separation happening, and one of my mentors is like, "Well, that's what happens when you level up in frequency. Like, just whatever is a mismatch kind of just goes away in that sense." But it is sad. Like, I feel the sadness too, because I'm like, but these people, so much love for them, and it's not like nothing's drastically horrible. Like, it's not like they're just being assholes. They're not. But I'm just like, uh, I don't wanna hang out anymore for for whatever reason, but, it kind of your sharing made me, think of that. Yeah.
Well, that's mathematical too. So you are a mathematician, right?
Hey.
Because think about it, everything vibrates, and now we can measure everything per frequency. So if you envision for a second that you and your old friendship group of 10 years, for those 10 years, perhaps you were maybe oscillating at the same frequency band. So therefore, there was connectivity. You felt a level of receptivity. You felt a level of comfort. Then over time, as you've done your own inner work, your frequency increases in its band, and therefore those operating at the lower frequency bands, it's not a match. Therefore,
Yeah.
we perceive that as a mismatch. That's what's happening, and that's what's happened to me. And our job is to just allow. It's very difficult to do that when you've had emotions, experiences, good times, bad times with these individuals. It's very, very difficult. But I came to the conclusion that everything is really transient in this reality. Everything just moves
Mm.
and changes. So if we cling so hard onto everything that we believe to be solid, that's going to equate to suffering. I learned that in Zen Buddhism. Wu
Yeah.
Wei, the opposite, the notion of non-doing, meaning everything moves as it is. That's what nature is, and it's when we as man try to grip and control everything, suffering happens. So the letting go process is so imperative when we are just not matching the frequencies of those around us.
Of course. No, of course. And at the level of the brain, just because, we've related to these people for so long, we've formed the neural pathways that are, it just takes a little effort to rewire them. And that's where the grieving and the sadness comes in, where as a human being, because the way that you explain it mathematically makes perfect sense to me. I'm a Virgo rising, right? I'm just like, boop, 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 sure. That makes sense to me. Let's move on. But then there's this human component with all the emotions, and I'm like, oh, but I'm sad. But then, that's fine too, because as a neuroscientist, what I'll just say again, what I just said, it's a neural pathway. Like I relate to these people through a loop in my brain, and it's just gonna take something to relate to them newly. Like, oh, okay, there's someone that I used to know versus we're besties. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had a period of transition where as people were leaving my vortex or leaving my reality, I had a period of time where I would perhaps judge them for who they were. And that manifested itself into me feeling feelings of regrets for perhaps being their friend in the first place, I would judge them for their actions and their behaviors. Oh, I can't be around that. But over time, I realize that that's not love. That's the opposite of love. That separation consciousness. Actually, we're all the exact same, almost, right? So therefore, I should lean into unconditional love and
Yeah.
allow those to be how they are. We don't have to hang out like we did before. But if I see them in the gym or in the spa or in the theater, I can have a 2-minute conversation, very pleasant, right?
Yeah.
So I went from one experience of, oh, go away, I can't be around that person, to now, hey, how are you? Like genuinely giving a bit of care and attention versus
Mm.
judgmental kind of approaches. I think
Yeah.
we're very, very quick to judge as human beings if we're not perceiving that individual to be pleasant or doing things in resonance to our frequency.
Yeah.
Oftentimes that's just too.
Yeah. Well, I just lost my train of thought. I had like this deep level conversation thing, and I was like, "Oh, we'll get into this," and then I just forgot about it. But give me a
It
moment.
feels
You-
like it feels like this conversation is just an evolution. It feels like we're deepening our own understanding right here, right now.
Yeah. Because I was like, "Oh, Will's a Scorpio. He has depth. Let's talk about something deep and meaningful." Not that we haven't been, but I literally was like, "Let's go deeper into something," and then lost my train of thought. So here we go. But well, yeah, judgment. Yeah, I mean, I'm super judgmental. I know that about myself. Whatever. I kind of laugh about it now because I'm so judgy. It's just funny now, because I'm aware of it, right? Like I'm aware of it, and it's funny. Um, but oh, this is what I was gonna say. Okay,
It's-
I'm back in this
yeah.
depth, right? So I was gonna say, well, from an evolutionary perspective, like from the point of view of a soul's evolution, even like the shittiest relationships, people that have quote unquote done you wrong, like you agreed on that contract before this incarnation. They were gonna teach you that. How you respond with all the drama and all this blah blah blah. That's kind of your own thing, right? Like, because I'm thinking about like some really nasty, well, again, that's dramatic. Like, that's me adding that interpretation to the thing. But hey, me and those people or those souls, we actually signed a contract. Okay, you're going to teach me this. And, how it happens in reality, well, I didn't
Mhm.
like that, but oh well. Right? So that's the transiency. That's how I interpreted it, or at least one way that I can interpret it. Like, we did agree on this.
Well,
You
that's
and
right.
I agree on some level of contractual thing because we're here talking, right?
Right. I mean, it's interesting you mentioned this. It's quite pertinent, and here's why. On the way back from the gym, before we jumped in the studio for this podcast, I always listen to spiritual content from my guides, and one of them mentioned today that we agreed, as you've mentioned, to experience the experiences to move us towards our true calling. Now, one of the ways in which I have had to heal my old self was my level of trust. So let me explain how that manifested because it's quite traumatic. So growing up, my mum and my dad was separated, and from the age of 2. And oftentimes my dad would text my mum saying, I'm going to come and pick up William on Saturday or whatever day he'd decide. I'd say perhaps 9.876 times out of 10, so almost every time, he wouldn't show up. So I would wait on my windowsill, waiting for my dad often, and he wouldn't show up. So back then, I would unconsciously kind of embody the traumatic experiences, which would then store in my cellular system. But then over time, that would then crystallize into feelings of pessimism, of non belief, of lack of hope. So that's
Yeah.
something I've had to experience in my life because now I've rooted in wholehearted trust in everything and everyone. And that's something that I've had to work on. So you're right. I believe that is a contract that I had to sign because if it wasn't for perhaps that experience and other ones of the same kind, I wouldn't have become this version I am now. So actually, I look at it with reverence, renunciation, and gratitude.
Mm,
Because everything is for us.
mm,
Life is not happening to us; it's happening for us and through us.
for sure. Wow. Wow. Yeah.
It took me a long,
Um,
well, it took me a long time to heal that wound of dad not being there. Took a
yeah.
long time, years. When I became conscious, I had psychotherapist, psychosynthesis coach, I had sports psychologist, I did all my reading, research papers, my word. To heal that wound was the most difficult one of life, but everything is possible.
Mm, it is. Well, it is if you think it is, right? Where you're like, that's what you're setting yourself up for, right? With those limitations or not. Um, so tell me a little bit about, so I know because I know you and a little bit about you, but I'm going to tell you even better right now. So tell me about this football career, what happened and like what you're doing now.
Yeah, for sure. So my love for football came, shocker, from my love for maths. And I wasn't particularly good technically when I first started playing. I first started playing football at age 8 in the playground. I told you before my first sport was karate. Um, Wadarubs, a Japanese style. And from there, one of my friends in the playground said, "You're pretty good. Why don't you play for my team?" So I did, and within 9 months, I was scouted for Manchester United. And at the time, Manchester United, the academy was perhaps the best in the world. So the reason why is because of my level of pattern recognition and my ability to create multi-model analyses on players in real time. So, and then from those analyses, I was able to depict space in time. So it was quite a complex kind of equation that I'd build before I'd play. So all of a sudden, what would happen is I would know what players, who was fast, who was slow, who was strong, who was weak, who really was emotionally involved with that game, and who really didn't want to be involved. Um, I'd kind of create the physiological and psychological kind of profiles of the players, and then during the game, I would see movement patterns based on the players I was playing around and in conjunction with my team. So for me, football became one big mathematical model. And all of a sudden, I'd find myself in pockets of space. The ball would come to me. I'd score a goal or create a goal, and I'd add and contribute towards the team. So that kind of was my first leanings and love with football. It was the intersection of football and math. So over the course of time, I then signed for a bunch of clubs, played professionally for a while, both here in the UK and also in the United States. But I don't think I always wanted to be a professional footballer for forever. I mean, you can't anyway. Physiologically, it's impossible. But I always knew that I wanted to take the learnings from a performance, in particular, performance of humans. I always wanted to take those ideals into the world of innovation, right? And that obviously manifested itself into intelligences. So how that manifested itself thereafter was a whole bunch of headhunting. So when I graduated university, I was headhunted a bunch of times by governments, massive tech companies. I'm not going to name drop. I don't need to do that. But everyone would have heard of the institutions that headhunted me. Why? Because I was able to take very, very big data sets, make them make more sense for leaders to help increase the optimization of human capital. So that's what I did. But I was exposed then to the corporate world. And I realized how backwards it was, both in the athletic environment and also the kind of professional corporate environment. And I realized that actually I could take my skill sets, my experiences, and my loves and passions and create solutions that could aid and bolster the performance of humans via allowing us to be more personalized with our approaches to our sports and to our work. So that's kind of the synopsis of how I got to what I was doing. From football, it was kind of the love for football through math. It was the pattern recognition. It was the big data modeling, headhunting in the corporate world, and then kind of the eureka moment when it was like, I can make an impact in the world, I think. So that's how it all manifested. And I guess my professional journey began officially in 2015.
That's really amazing. That's really amazing. Like, yeah, just realizing that, hey, I've got something to offer here and I'm going to use it. Um, I mean, I hate using that word, but I'm going to use it for the betterment of humanity versus some other shit, you know? Like it's such a, I mean, but it's such a fine line, you know, and I've been there, like, you know, I've been there. We've all been there. There's always this choice, right? And then it comes down to, yeah, your personal values, what you want for yourself, for other human beings, for the world in general. Yeah.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
interesting because I didn't initially come to that equation. I didn't come to that kind of realization that I wanted to help humanity until I had my first job interview. I've only ever had one job interview, and from there, I chose not to be offered the job. I wanted to do my own thing to actually contribute towards solving stuff. And during that interview, I realized quickly that I wasn't made to be a cog in a machine. I was made to build infrastructures of new machines. And at that point, I was like, whoa, I can actually help solve world problems. Let's lean into this. And actually, for a lot of my family and friends at the time, it was kind of it was a bit of a backwards view. What, you're not going to be employed? Safety, job, security. You're gonna be an entrepreneur? What? You're gonna be an innovator? What is this? So there was also that kind of I had to deal with too, of kind of forging my own path and trailblazing. But everyone understands now. All is well.
Hmm. Wow. Cool. I keep saying wow because I really am wowed. Like, and how do you interconnect, you know, uh, this person that you are, entrepreneurial, kind of genius, all that stuff with just day to day. Like, I know you're a father, you know, you have a toddler. How do you interact with her? You know,
Yeah.
like normally, like, cause yeah, how do you, tell me more about that. Cause yeah, we want to know.
It's a wonderful, wonderful question, Val. You ask amazing questions. Um, I've had to teach myself just to be, right? And what I mean by that is my experience from 5 years old to perhaps 30 to 25 years. I wanted to just do stuff all the time. Read this book, and then once I've finished the book, I'd have perhaps 5 minutes. Okay, read that book. Okay, 5 minutes. Okay, oh, I've got an idea. Let's model this. Or let's go for a run. There was always stuff being done because my brain was demanding it, or I thought it was demanding it. Right? Then over time, I started to kind of lean into beingness and just doing mundane stuff and enjoying it, right? Like sitting down and watching a movie, or I don't know, reading the paper, or going for a walk, or going for a coffee, like just normal stuff. I started to lean into normal stuff because I realized by doing the research that by doing normal stuff, I'm actually regulating my nervous system. I'm actually calming myself down. So I don't need to be intellectually stimulated all the time, as I thought I was. So to go to your question regarding Ola, my daughter, I now live through her. I vicariously experience the world through her. Oftentimes, she'll be playing, doing some sensory. We do a lot of education, a lot of learning, a lot of stuff we do pertaining to her development. And as she's engaging with the world, with people, with her phenomenological experience, sometimes I'm just watching her because by just watching her, she's able to communicate to me. There's times where she don't want to like interact. She wants to just be still. And I see a lot of traits within her that I have. The desire to be still, the desire to disconnect. So I effectively parent based on her energy levels and
Hmm.
based on what I sense from her. So there could be times where we go to the park and we're just being kids in the park, and she loves the park. She don't want to leave the park, and that's fine. Or she might want to go swimming. We'll go swimming. At this point, I feel like we've got a level of communicative ability where I just know what's needed and what she wants to do. Of course, I will engage and I will lead. Of course, that's just my nature to do that. But oftentimes, Ola will know what she wants to do. If she wants to colour, if she wants to go for a walk, if she wants to be held, right? When we go for walks, we go for walks around town, around downtown often, and I'll ask her, darling, would you like to be held or would you like to walk? Daddy, I'd like to be held. Fine. And then she'll say to me, Daddy, I want to walk. Okay, fine. So in real time, we're just present in moments and we know what's needed. So I don't have like major plans set when I kind of have that time with her. We may have one activity booked in, but then in between that, it's just space. And in that space, we know what's needed.
Mm. Yeah, it's great being like just being, as you said, being. Yeah, it's so important just being here now versus, being cerebral is great. Hey, I'm there mostly myself, as you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, being here is it's actually really exquisite. Like as one of my guests said, there's thousands of souls in line for this experience, like this one right
Really.
here, the one I'm trying to numb myself, avoid, fucking escape. Like this is the experience all those souls are after. So yeah, yeah, and yeah, just being here is priceless in that sense.
Beingness took me a long time to really grasp. I grasped it initially intellectually, of course, but then I started to embody it. And what would happen is as I would put a book down or put the laptop down or pen and pad and just sit or just observe or go into nature and just walk, I'd find myself wanting to do stuff. But then I'd regulate myself, saying, no, like, just enjoy this experience. So it is a trained thing, I believe, for us as human beings, especially in the West. My gosh, we're so used to doing stuff that when it comes to being silent, people can't be. They have to watch TV, watch that show on Netflix. They have to go for that drink that bottle of wine. They have to do stuff to tame that beingness, because that beingness, oftentimes, that silence becomes quite detrimental for most people. They have racing thoughts, oscillating, ruminating around their minds, which they need to distract themselves. Social media is a way that people do that. So yeah, my sentiment overall is beingness is so healthy, and it's actually deeply human. We're human beings, not human doings.
Very true. Very true. I love discovering that over and over,
Every
over and
single day.
over. Literally, literally. Well, look, I mean, I could talk to you forever, but we will end the episode soon. I guess the last thing I want to ask you is, yeah, what's your vision for humanity inside of everything that you said? Yeah, I know it's a small question to ask, but what's the last thing that you want to leave us with as a vision for humankind?
Unity consciousness is a vision I have for humanity. Now, what do I mean by unity consciousness? Imagine a world where you walk outside and you interact with your reality in the most harmonious way. Judgments and discrepancies and annoyances are all harmonized. Why? Because everything exists. So then we won't have such a polarity in experiences. War wouldn't exist because diplomatically we'd be able to congruently and harmoniously move through things, right? So I envision a world where humanity exists, understanding that we can actually work together geopolitically, geographically, right? Regardless of religion, race, color, creed, socioeconomic status. I wholeheartedly believe that we as a collective inhabiting Earth, right? Because we are Earth citizens. I strongly believe we can come to a place of peace, regardless of backgrounds. So we could
Mm,
be technical here, but that's as simplistic as I'm going to put it.
mm.
Existing in a world where peace exists, love exists, and we can all move towards our highest expressions without prejudice. I think we're on the way towards that. I have faith in the levels of consciousness available to humanity, but there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done, and the work actually isn't work. It's beingness. It's allowing for nature to do its thing.
Amazing. Beautiful. Thank you for creating that vision. I'm there. I've teletransported myself there, but I got to say something, so I will. I'll say something. Oh, thank you for being here and talking to me about everything that we discussed, opening yourself up and your life. I definitely feel like I got to know you better, and so did the listeners. And if you want people to find you, where can they? If you want to be found.
My main place of commerce discourse really is LinkedIn. So if you
Mm.
search Will Mellors-Blair on LinkedIn, you'll find me. Yeah, come and connect.
I'll pop that in the show notes. Thank you so much, Will. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure is all mine, Val. Thank you very much.
All right. Until next time, yo.